For the last part of this worksheet, we're going to revisit the idea of mixed numbers. We talked about mixed numbers at the very beginning of this chapter, and then we haven't really dealt with them again, but we're going to have a whole section of them. The last section of this chapter is all about mixed numbers, so we need to kind of bring them back to the surface, okay? So we need to go back and review a couple of things. So a fraction where the numerator is greater than or equal to the denominator is an improper fraction, okay? And what we need to know is since the numerator is greater than or equal to the denominator, that tells me that improper fractions have a value of 1 or more, okay? Now, if you have a situation where you have a whole number plus a proper fraction, and just really, really quick, remember a proper fraction is a situation where the numerator is less than the denominator, okay? So in the event that you have a whole number plus a proper fraction, that's called a mixed number, okay? Mixed numbers have a value greater than 1, okay? Since we're dealing with two things involving fractions that both have a value greater than 1, we can kind of go between the two things. It just so happens that mixed numbers are a different form of improper fractions and vice versa. So we can convert between the two, and that's what we need to focus on in this video, is how to convert between mixed numbers and improper fractions, and then improper fractions back to mixed numbers. So for our first example, we need to look at converting mixed numbers to improper fractions. So mixed to improper. All right. So the steps that we have to take is you multiply the denominator of the mixed number by the whole number, and then you add the numerator, and then you just keep the common denominator and simplify. Okay, so let me show you what I mean here. So you want to take the denominator and multiply it by the whole number. So we would take 4 times 2, and then you want to add to that whatever the numerator of the proper fraction was. And you want to put all of that over whatever your original denominator was. Our original denominator in the mixed number was 4. The denominator in the improper fraction is also 4. And then you just have to use the order of operations in the numerator. We have multiplication and we have addition. Multiply first, then add. So 4 times 2 is 8. So we get 8 plus 3 over 4. Well, 8 plus 3 is 11 over 4. So 11/4 is exactly equal to 2 3/4. And you could draw a picture if you wanted to prove this to yourself. Okay? Now, for part B, we have -5 7/9. And here's something I really need to make sure you understand. If your mixed number is negative, your improper fraction is negative, but the negative is not part of the actual calculation. So for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and put equals and a negative, and then we're going to go back and put whatever we get as our conversion. So again, if it's a negative mixed number, it has to be a negative improper fraction, but we don't need the negative to be part of the actual calculation. So just bring the negative over. So then when I do the converting, I've got 9 times 5 plus 7 all over 9. Well, 9 times 5 is 45 plus 7 over 9. And 45 plus 7 ends up being 52. So we end up with 52/9. But remember, 5 7/9 was negative. Therefore, 52/9 has to also be negative. So notice we didn't have the negative as part of our calculation. We just carried it over. Okay, so that is how you convert a mixed number to an improper fraction. Okay, now let's do the reverse. So next up, we have the steps to write an improper fraction as a mixed number. So you divide the numerator by the denominator. So we're going to start with that, and we end up setting it up kind of as long division. The quotient, when you divide, becomes the whole number. The remainder becomes the numerator, and the denominator stays the same. Simplify if you need to. So let me show you what this looks like. So we have 23/9. So we want to take 23 and divide it by 9. Well, we have to see how many times would 9 go into 23. It'll go in 2 full times. 2 times 9 is 18. So I'm going to put a 2 up here. 2 times 9 is 18, so I want to subtract. Well, when I take 23 and I subtract 18, I'm left with 5. So this 2 is the quotient. This becomes the whole number. This 5 is the remainder. This becomes the numerator. And this 9 was the denominator to begin with. It's going to stay the denominator. So this stays the denominator. So when I write this out, it's 2 and 5/9. Okay, and it kind of goes in a clockwise fashion. So 2 and then 5/9. That's how you would write it. Okay, let's do one more. So I have -51/7. Okay, the negative just stays in the answer. Remember, the negative's not part of the calculation. If I have a negative improper fraction, that means I have a negative mixed number. So I'm just going to put an equals and a negative. We'll just throw the resulting number in with that negative. So let's see, we've got 51/7. So we have to find out how many times 7 would go into 51. Well, I know 7 times 7 is 49, and that's as close as I'm going to get to 51 without going over. So I'm going to say 7 goes into 51 7 times. 7 times 7 is 49. Well, when I subtract, 51 minus 49 is 2. So this is the whole number. This is the remainder, which is really the numerator. This 7 right here, still the denominator. So I get 7 and 2/7. And again, notice the negative was not part of the calculation. It just gets carried over. Okay. So before we dive into section 3.7 or whatever the next section number is, we're going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing mixed numbers. Make sure you understand how to convert between mixed numbers and improper fractions. Okay.